African countries are increasingly being affected by the economic repercussions of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has pushed up prices for cereals and fuel. Russia has urged the West to lift sanctions imposed on it over its military action in Ukraine so that essential supply of grain can start flowing freely to global markets. The African Union Chairperson agrees, saying the sanctions have a ripple effect on African countries.
I spoke to the European Council on Tuesday and I told them, yes, there is war, the crisis, but there are also sanctions. We should work together on resolving these two problems and instead of that, make sure that everything concerning food grain supplies is outside the sanctions.
In his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in the city of Sochi, Macky Sall, who is also the Senegalese president, urged him to take into account the suffering being witnessed in African countries as a result of the conflict.
You have seen the different votes at the United Nations. The position of Africa, despite enormous pressure, the majority of African countries have avoided condemning this situation. And if you also take Asia, the Middle East and also Latin America, you see that a good part of humanity, which in reality is very attentive to what is happening, and me, in the name of all hopes, that I have come to see you to ask you to be aware that our countries, even far from the theater of Ukrainian conflict, are the victims of this economic crisis.
Ukraine and the West have accused Russia of blocking ports to halt exports, threatening global food security. Moscow has denied this, expressing its desire to develop ties with Africa.
Our country has always been on the side of Africa, has always supported Africa in its battle against colonialism. We think that with Africa in general and its individual nations, we traditionally have very good relations. I would even call them friendly relations without exaggeration. Africa as a whole has a huge potential, and based on that, we will continue to develop our relationships with Africa and its individual nations.
Sall called for the lifting of restrictions that hinder the supply of Russia's grain crops and fertilizers. Chao, Mghono, CGTN.